She helped my estranged dad recover from addiction. Then I found their selfies in bed together, smiling like they'd earned it. You never expect betrayal to come wearing your wife's perfume or your father's old denim jacket. But there they were, grinning on that cracked iPhone screen, tangled in motel bedsheets like some tragic indie couple, like their destruction of me was a shared inside joke. And it all started with a favor. I'm Toby Mitchell, 35, middle school history teacher. I wear the same watch every day, drive the same route to work, and keep my coffee mug stacked in perfect order. I live for structure, for quiet, for knowing the people I love won't vanish when the wind blows too hard. That's what my father did. Russell Mitchell, a man who could charm the gold off a wedding band, then pawn it for whiskey. He left when I was 21 and didn't look back. Not when Mom died. Not when I got married. Not when Max was born. So when he called me from a rehab center near Asheville, saying he was clean and ready to rebuild, I hung up. And when he called again, Haley picked up. She always had a bleeding heart. Haley Mitchell, 33, social worker by trade, nurturer by instinct, at least on the surface. People saw her as this soft, selfless woman. Camelot eyes, warm voice, gentle hands. But they never saw what I saw. How easily she twisted sympathy into control. How comfort became currency. I loved her. I still might. But even love has blind spots. We had a life together. A quiet house in the suburbs. A 5-year-old son who believed bedtime stories could fix anything. Sunday pancakes, Friday movie nights. Haley and I weren't perfect, but we were solid. Or so I thought. Then came the call. Then came the favor. We should visit him, she said, stirring her tea, her tone steady. You need closure. Max deserves to know his grandfather. He doesn't need a junkie in his life, I snapped. He's not using, she countered. He's trying. People deserve second chances, Toby. Maybe they do. But third and fourth? That's when you start bleeding for them. She wanted to see him first. Said it would be easier that way. Said he might open up more if I wasn't there. I should have known then. But I told myself she was being thoughtful. That she was doing what she always did, helping broken people find their footing. The first time I saw him again, he looked smaller, gray around the edges. Still had that slick smile, but his eyes, they were tired. Son, he said, voice gravelly. You look just like me. I didn't reply. Haley hugged him like they were old friends. It was supposed to be one visit. Then it became a weekly ritual. She'd take him to therapy, bring him books, drop off Max's drawings. When I offered to help, she said, you've got enough on your plate. Let me handle this. And I let her. Because I trusted her. Because I was a damn fool. It was a Saturday night, 3 weeks into this twisted reunion, when I saw it. We were watching a movie. Max had fallen asleep between us. Haley's phone buzzed. She picked it up too fast. Smiled. Who's that? I asked casually. She blinked. Just a coworker. But I knew her tells. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she lied. The half-second pause before answering. Later that night, I watched her through the bathroom mirror. She was brushing her teeth, humming to herself. Happy. Light. And all I could hear was my father's voice echoing in my head. You look just like me. Maybe that's why she started smiling at him the way she used to smile at me. Or maybe, she never stopped loving broken things. I thought I was doing the right thing, letting my father back in, letting my wife play savior. But now I see it clearly. I gave her access to the one man who knew exactly how to lie to me. My wife offered to drive my father to therapy, and somehow, I ended up the one being left behind. It started with small things. The car keys disappearing from the hook by the door. Her perfume lingering longer than usual in the hallway. Text tones she used to silence around me now echoing freely from her purse. But the thing that stuck with me the most was this. She started dressing up for errands. Just therapy, she'd say, brushing on lip gloss I hadn't seen in months. Russell's got a new counselor. I promised I'd sit in for moral support. I was at work, teaching 8th graders about the Cold War, while my wife was playing co-pilot in my father's redemption tour. The irony wasn't lost on me. At first, I let it slide. Told myself it was just a good deed. She's a social worker. Empathy is her drug of choice. But the thing about good deeds is, they usually don't come wrapped in red lace bras I didn't buy. I noticed it while folding laundry one Thursday evening. A red bra, lacy, delicate, and new. I held it up. Since when do you wear this? Haley looked up from her laptop, pretending not to flinch. I bought it last week. Felt like treating myself. Treating yourself for what? She smiled, That patronizing smile I used to think was love. Do I need a reason? Maybe not. But she used to tell me when she got new things. Especially the kind of things that hugged her like that. I didn't push it. Not yet. But a crack had formed. And once you see the fracture, you can't unsee it. The next day, my mother, God bless her timing, called me during lunch. "You two still taking care of Russell?" she asked, voice cautious. "We've been helping him get to his meetings," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "Haley's been more involved. She connects with that side of him better than I do." There was a pause. "Sweetheart," she said, "this might be out of line, but when I dropped by your place last week, Haley smelled like Russell's cologne." I froze mid-bite. "What? Your father's always worn that cheap spicy crap. Smelled like cinnamon and tobacco." She hugged me on the way out. That's what she smelled like. Strong. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe he'd leaned in too close. Maybe she'd washed his sweater. But I knew that cologne. That bitter, cloying scent. It haunted my childhood. It didn't just cling to you. It claimed you. And now it was on my wife. I hung up, stomach twisted. That night, I brought it up as gently as I could. "You wore his cologne?" Haley was slicing vegetables. She didn't look up. "He spilled some on me in the car. I didn't realize it was that noticeable." "He's sitting that close to you?" She rolled her eyes. "Toby, seriously? It was an accident. Do you want me to stop helping him?" I didn't answer right away. "I want to understand why you're doing more for him than you ever did for me," I said quietly. That hit her. She set the knife down, looked at me like I was being unfair. "I'm doing this for you, Toby. For Max. For your family. You're so closed off with him, someone had to step up." I nodded. "Right. And does stepping up include wearing new lingerie and smelling like another man?" Her expression changed, for just a second. A flash of guilt. Then it was gone. "You're being paranoid," she said, cold now. "Maybe you're just not used to me being strong for someone else." That was the moment I realized something had shifted, not just in her, but in us. We weren't on the same side anymore. I was watching from the outside. A ghost in my own marriage. And she was alive again. Recharged. Lit up in ways she hadn't been since Max was born. Only, I wasn't the source of that light. The next morning, I drove to work early. Sat in the parking lot 30 minutes before the first bell. I couldn't focus. Couldn't shake the image of her laughing in the passenger seat. Fingers brushing against the man who used to kiss my mother and promise me birthday presents he never bought. I checked her location. Still shared. Still on. She was parked outside Russell's halfway house. At 7:43 a.m. Therapy wasn't until 9. I stared at the dot for 10 minutes. Then I closed the app. Because knowing where someone isn't the same as knowing who they are. And in that moment, I realized I didn't know my wife at all. I was just looking for batteries. What I found was the lock screen that ended my marriage. It was a Tuesday. Rain tapping the kitchen window like a warning I didn't know how to read yet. Max's dinosaur toy had run out of juice, and he was mid-tantrum. You'd think the Jurassic era had ended all over again. "Check the junk drawer," Haley called from the living room, eyes glued to her laptop. Bottom left, that drawer, the one full of stray rubber bands, expired coupons, keys we didn't recognize. I dug through the mess, pushed past broken pens and loose coins, until my fingers brushed something solid and cold. Not batteries. A phone. Older model. Heavy. No case. Scuffed edges. Not mine. Not hers. Not her usual one, anyway. I turned it over, hit the side button. The lock screen lit up. And my heart stopped. There she was, Haley. In bed. Wearing nothing. Just a bedsheet pulled barely across her chest. Her hair messy, lips parted. But it wasn't the image that broke me. It was the hand. A man's hand, resting on her hip. Not mine. Tanned. Veiny. Familiar. A cigarette burn scar on the knuckle, same as Russell's. I remembered it from when he burned himself working on a busted Camaro when I was 15. The photo wasn't romantic. It was smug. Like they wanted to be seen. Like they were daring the world to find out. I stared at the screen. One missed call. 2 new messages. The background buzz of Max's cartoon played in the distance. Haley was humming in the next room. And I was holding evidence that everything I knew was a lie. I put the phone back. Quiet. Careful. Like I'd just touched a grenade I didn't know how to defuse. All night, I couldn't sleep. I watched Haley move through the house like nothing had changed. She kissed Max goodnight. Made tea. Brushed her teeth in front of the mirror we bought on our anniversary. She climbed into bed next to me, legs brushing mine. I stared at the ceiling and counted her breaths. I wanted to ask, wanted to scream, wanted to wake her the hell up and demand answers. But something inside me whispered, don't. Not yet. Not until I had more than a picture. Not until she couldn't lie her way out of it. So I waited until she left for work the next morning. Then I opened that drawer again, pulled out the phone, took it to the garage. No passcode, just a swipe to unlock. Like they didn't think I'd ever find it. Or maybe they wanted me to. The photos were the first thing I checked. Not just one. Dozens. Different beds. Different motels. Her hand in his. Her lips on his neck. Her face buried in his chest. Some were selfies. Others, taken by him, clearly proud. One image was burned into me. Her in a motel mirror, wearing his shirt. No pants. A caption written across the bottom. Property of R. I dropped the phone. It clattered to the concrete floor. I picked it up again. Open messages. His name saved under a single letter. R. The most recent text, from 3 days ago. R. Still tastes like Sunday service. God, I missed that. Haley, don't make me blush. You're corrupting me. R. Too late for salvation, baby. I couldn't breathe. I stood there in that garage, surrounded by Max's bike, my tools, the life I built with my own hands, and I felt like a fool in someone else's joke. The woman I trusted. The father I gave a second chance. Together. In bed. Mocking every good thing I thought we were. I copied everything. Every photo. Every message. Airdropped it to a hidden folder on my laptop. Labeled it something boring. Tax receipts 2022. Because I wasn't confronting them yet. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to burn them slowly. But first, I had to know how long. How many times. And why. The last one hit the hardest. Not just why him, but why now? Why after Max? After the vow renewals we were planning? After all the therapy she said I needed? That night, I kissed her on the forehead as she read in bed. She smiled. And I smiled back. Because I'd just learned the most important thing of all. Lies this big don't stay buried. And I was going to be the one who dug the grave. The phone unlocked like it wanted me to see everything. And God, it showed me more than I was ready for. You think you know what betrayal looks like. You picture a kiss. A secret dinner. A hotel receipt stuffed in the wrong pocket. But nothing prepares you for the moment you're scrolling through pictures of your wife with your father, grinning like they're on a honeymoon, while your kid is at home asking when mommy's coming back from volunteering. The burner phone was old, but well used. No fingerprint lock, no Face ID, just a swipe. That alone told me everything I needed to know. They didn't expect to get caught. Or worse, they didn't care if they did. I went back into the photo album. Opened favorites. There were 61 pictures, all marked with little red hearts. The first was dated 2 months ago. She told me she was going to a conference in Raleigh that weekend. Sent me selfies from the hotel breakfast bar. Meanwhile, the timestamp on the photo I was staring at said 10:42 p.m. same night, and showed her in bed, grinning with my father's necklace between her teeth. Another photo. Her in the driver's seat of our Camry, his hand on her thigh. The same hand I used to wrap splints for when I was a kid. The same hand that used to shake when he sobered up. Now steady, possessive, confident. There was video, too. Shaky, blurry at first, then focused, on her, whispering, "We shouldn't," while laughing. And his voice, "But that's what makes it so damn good, Hales." I paused it. The way he said her name, Hales, like a nickname. Intimate, casual, mine. I kept watching. I couldn't help it. Some sick part of me needed to feel the pain all the way through. There were messages, too. Long threads. One thread ran during what was supposed to be our anniversary dinner. I remembered that night. Max had a fever, we canceled plans. Haley had ordered Thai food and said she was working late. Turns out she was texting my father. R. Still wish I was under your table right now. Haley, if only. My husband's being extra needy tonight. R. He's not the only Mitchell who wants you. They thought they were clever. They thought I'd never find out. I did more than find out. I started putting it together. Side by side. I pulled out my laptop. Opened our shared calendar, the one we used for Max's school events, therapy appointments, family dinners. I cross-referenced every date with the text threads. June 9th, family barbecue at Mom's. Message from Haley, sneaking away from the grill. Meet me at the shed. Photo attached, her lipstick smudged, his belt undone. July 4th, Russell's sobriety milestone dinner. Message from Haley. You make me want to relapse in all the best ways. I closed the laptop, paced the garage. There's a kind of fury that doesn't show up in screams. It just sits in your chest, cold and coiled, like a loaded gun waiting for a trigger. And I just found mine. For weeks, they'd look me in the eye, ate at my table, toasted my son's birthday with dollar store hats and sparkling cider, took photos together, Haley on one side, Russell on the other, both smiling like saints. Meanwhile, in private, they were trading texts like, "You still owe me that post-sermon sin. Can't wait to worship between your thighs." I felt sick, like I'd swallowed bleach and it was burning a hole straight through my gut. This wasn't just a mistake. This was intentional, ongoing, cruel. I copied every photo, every text, every video, backed it up to 3 separate drives. One in my sock drawer, one in a password-protected folder at work, one on an encrypted flash drive I duct-taped behind the furnace. Because this wasn't just betrayal. This was evidence. I wasn't sure what I was going to do yet, not exactly. But I knew one thing. They'd chosen each other. Now I was going to make sure they got everything that came with that choice. At dinner that night, Haley passed me the salad bowl like nothing had changed. Max babbled about dinosaurs. My heart beat like a war drum. I looked at her across the table. She smiled. The same fake smile from those motel selfies. And I realized something bone deep. She wasn't just cheating. She was enjoying it. I had proof they betrayed me, but I didn't confront them. I planned. There are 2 kinds of pain, the kind that wants to scream and the kind that whispers. I was past screaming. I was in the whisper phase now. The phase where you sit across from your wife and smile as she asks, "Want more chicken?" Where you drive your son to school with music playing like everything's fine. Where you pass your father a beer on your porch and say, "Glad you're doing better, Dad." I had all the proof. Every photo, every filthy message, every timestamp. But instead of going nuclear, I chose something colder. Silence. Because betrayal doesn't deserve anger. It deserves strategy. The morning after I finished archiving everything, I stood in front of the mirror. I looked at my face, hollowed out, pale, different. That's when it hit me. I didn't even cry. Not once. Maybe because part of me always knew. Not consciously, but somewhere deep under the routines and smiles. Haley had changed over the past year. Gradually. Like frost creeping across a windshield. Less laughter. Less touching. A certain detachment. Like she'd already left the marriage. Just forgot to pack her bags. And Russell? God, I should have known. He didn't get better. He got better at hiding. He used recovery as his newest con. And Haley, she bought it. Or maybe she didn't. Maybe she just wanted the danger. The thrill. The dirt. Some women crave chaos dressed as charm. I didn't stop the act. I leaned into it. Haley was planning our vow renewal. Something small. Backyard, fairy lights, Max holding the rings. "We need this," she told me. After everything. To reconnect. She had no idea how poetic that was. She was ordering flowers while I was downloading video editing software. She was talking about table runners while I was organizing screenshots into folders labeled Motel 6, June. Rehab parking lot, July. God bless this mess, sexts. One night, as she brushed her hair in the mirror, she asked me, "Do you still love me?" I turned to her. Let the silence hang just long enough. "Of course," I said. "I wouldn't be here if I didn't." She smiled. And I saw it then. That little flicker of guilt behind her eyes. Not enough to stop. Not enough to confess. But enough to be afraid. Good. Max made me a Father's Day card 2 weeks early. He spelled hero wrong. Heroe. I taped it to my desk. It reminded me of why I couldn't just walk away. This wasn't just about a broken marriage or a cheating wife. This was about legacy. About what kind of man I wanted Max to remember when he was older. Not the one who cried. Not the one who begged. The one who stood back, watched the fire build, and struck the match when it mattered most. The plan came together quickly. I uploaded everything to a hidden drive, disguised it as a slideshow, vow renewal memories. Because when the lights go down at the party and the screen lights up, no one's going to be expecting what they're about to see. Not her, not him, not the neighbors, not the friends who always said we were couple goals. I visited my mom, told her I was excited for the renewal. Lied through my teeth. She hugged me like she used to when I was little. "You're a good man, Toby," she said. "You got that from me, not from him." I nearly broke. But I didn't. Because revenge requires restraint. And I was becoming an expert. That night, I stood outside, watching the string lights go up. Haley was on the phone with the caterer. Laughing. Russell pulled into the driveway, brought flowers, hugged her longer than a father-in-law should. I watched them from the window and smiled, because it was almost time. I turned our vow renewal into a trap, and they walked straight into it, smiling. The day before the ceremony, she slipped into bed beside me and whispered, "I'm nervous." I looked at her face in the dark, the soft worry lines, the bare honesty in her voice, or what would have passed for honesty before I knew what she was. "Nervous about what?" I asked. "I don't know," she said. "I just want everything to be perfect." Perfect. That word tasted like rust in my mouth. The backyard was already transforming. White chairs, flower garlands, twinkle lights across the trees. Haley had rented one of those cheap Bluetooth speakers to loop our wedding playlist. Jason Mraz, Ben Rector, all the acoustic lies we used to slow dance to. Max was drawing signs on poster boards, "Love wins," in thick crayon letters. Meanwhile, in the garage, I was exporting video files. The presentation was done, 23 minutes long. The first 5 were harmless: photos from our wedding, Max's first birthday, family trips. The bait. Then came the rot. The motel selfies, the text messages, the video clips, some blurred, some not. No commentary, just raw truth. Organized. Chronological. I even added timestamps in the corner of each frame, synced with calendar entries from my phone. It was art. It was evidence. It was war. I kept up the mask. At the rehearsal dinner, I stood beside Haley and Russell, made a toast. Said things like, "Forgiveness is the heart of love. We're here because we've endured, not because we're perfect." Every scar tells a story. People clapped. Some teared up. Haley squeezed my hand so tightly, I almost laughed. Russell gave me a look. That classic look, the one addicts give when they think you've bought the act. "You've changed, Dad," I told him quietly as we poured drinks behind the shed. He clinked his glass against mine. "Thanks, son. Means a lot to hear that." I smiled. You know what they say? Everyone loves a redemption story. I'd even rehearsed the moment. It would happen just before the vows. Haley wanted me to speak. A few words as husband and father. That was my cue. I'd walk to the mic, cue up the slideshow. Invite everyone to share the journey with us. Then hit play and watch their love story turn into a funeral. The night before the ceremony, I tucked Max into bed. He looked up at me, still holding his little ring-bearer pillow. "Are you happy, Dad?" he asked sleepily. I kissed his forehead. "I will be." That was the only honest thing I'd said all week. Haley came to bed late. Said she'd been going over the table arrangements. That she'd texted Russell to confirm the sound system delivery. "Did you talk to him?" she asked me. "Is he feeling okay about tomorrow?" I turned the page of my book. "He's ready," I said. She curled into me, rested her head on my chest, and whispered, "Thank you for forgiving him." I didn't move, because if I did, she'd feel how hard my heart was beating. He said, "I've changed, son." And I said, "I believe you." But I was already holding the knife. The morning of the vow renewal, I woke up calm. Not numb, not angry, just precise. I dressed in the same navy suit I wore the day Max was born. Polished shoes, clean shave, tie knotted tight, like a man about to stand in court, not under twinkle lights. Haley floated through the house, humming. She kissed me like we were newlyweds. "You okay?" she asked, eyes bright. "Never better," I said. It wasn't a lie. Russell showed up 2 hours early. Said he wanted to help set up, but brought no tools. Just a six-pack and that same sleazy grin he's always worn like cologne. He stood in my kitchen, sipping a beer like it was his house. "You sure about this?" he asked, nodding toward the backyard. "Renewing vows, second chances, big deal." I dried my hands on a dish towel. "You nervous?" I asked. He shrugged. "Not about you and Haley. You two are solid. Always were. I just, don't want to mess things up." He said it like a confession, but I knew what it was, a test. See, people like Russell don't apologize. They drop just enough guilt to fish for forgiveness. I stared at him. Really stared. This man. My father. The one who missed every birthday. Who only came back into my life when it suited him. Who seduced my wife while I was making pancakes for his grandson. He took another sip. "You're looking at me funny." I smiled. "You've changed, Dad." He blinked. "You think?" I stepped closer, placed a hand on his shoulder, squeezed just enough to make him look down. "This time," I said, "I believe you." And the mask slipped, just a hair. He looked away, because he knew, on some level, He knew I wasn't talking about redemption. I was talking about consequences. Haley gave her speech just before dinner. She stood beneath a string of lights, the sunset bleeding through the trees, and said words like growth, healing, resilience. People clapped. Some cried. She didn't mention me by name. Not once. But she mentioned him. Russell. Called him an unexpected blessing in our journey. And in that moment, every hair on my arm stood up. Because she wasn't hiding anymore. She was daring me. After dessert, Russell pulled me aside near the fire pit. Listen, he said, fiddling with his beer label. There's something I need to tell you. My pulse ticked up. You don't have to, I said softly. No, I do, he insisted. I've been clean for over a year. I've been working my steps. And I've wronged a lot of people. You especially. He wouldn't look at me. I want to make things right. Then tell me the truth, I said, voice low. He looked up, startled. The truth. I nodded. Say it. His mouth opened. Closed. He swallowed hard. Then, I hurt you. And your mom. And I wasn't there. Coward. He wouldn't say it. Not the real thing. Not her. But that was fine. He'd say it tomorrow. In front of everyone. That night, I sat at my laptop one final time. Checked the file. Mitchell Vow Renewal 2025, Final. MP4. I added one last slide. Just black screen. White text. This is what they were doing while you prayed for his sobriety. I closed the laptop. Exhaled. Outside, I could hear Max laughing in the yard with my mother. Haley singing softly through the window. And Russell, my father, sitting on the porch swing, drinking the last of his beer, thinking he'd made it out clean. The backyard was glowing with fairy lights, smiling faces, and cold drinks. And I was about to end everything with a slideshow. It looked beautiful. That's the part that still gets me. Like some twisted dream, our backyard dressed for a Hallmark moment. White chairs lined in rows. Mason jars with baby's breath dangling from shepherd's hooks. A string quartet warming up by the fence. The air smelled like roses, barbecue, and betrayal. Haley stood under the arbor in a soft ivory dress. The same one she wore on our original wedding day. Still fit her perfectly. People kept telling her how radiant she looked. You're glowing, someone said. Yeah, I thought. Affairs will do that to you. Max was running around with his little bow tie crooked. My mom was crying already, even though nothing had started yet. I shook hands, hugged guests, played the part. And the whole time, my laptop sat on the folding table near the speakers, waiting. That one file. All I had to do was double-click. We started with a prayer. Haley's idea. She said we should honor the new chapter with a blessing. Funny, how people use God when they want a clean start. A local pastor spoke for 3 minutes about resilience and love, about weathering storms, about redemption. Haley nodded along. Russell closed his eyes like he was truly moved. And me? I smiled. Because redemption was about to get rewritten in fire. Then came the toasts. My mom went first. Spoke about second chances. About how proud she was of the man I'd become. How love was about choosing the same person over and over, even when it hurt. She cried through half of it. Then Russell stepped up. He looked nervous, sweaty, shaved too close, but still had that charm, that practiced ease. I know I've made mistakes, he said. But standing here, seeing my son, my daughter-in-law, my grandson, I feel like I've been given a gift I don't deserve. The guests clapped. I didn't. Haley touched his arm when he sat back down. I noticed. Finally, it was my turn. Haley kissed my cheek and whispered, "You ready?" I nodded. Walked up to the mic. The sun was just dipping behind the trees. Gold light casting everything in warmth and shadow. Perfect timing. I cleared my throat. Thank you all for being here, I began. This means more to us than I can say. Family, friends, you've stood by us through hard times. I paused. Haley and I have always believed in honesty, in transparency, in growth, and I wanted to share something special tonight. A little journey, a look back before we say our vows. She turned to me, confused. I smiled at her, then turned to the laptop. Let's take a look. I clicked. The projector screen lit up behind us. The first slide was sweet. Photos of our wedding day. Haley laughing. Me holding Max as a baby. People sighed, smiled. Slide 2, more memories. Max's first steps. Beach vacations. A slow piano track playing under it. And then, slide 3. Haley, in bed. Hair messy. Russell's hand on her hip. The room didn't gasp yet, Not fully. Just a confused shuffle. A few awkward laughs. Then the text started scrolling. Still tastes like Sunday service. You make sobriety the second best high. Haley stood frozen. Russell sat up straight, like he'd been slapped. Then the videos. A shaky motel room clip. Her voice, laughing. His voice, unmistakable. People began to murmur. Then gasp. Then move. Haley whispered, "Toby, what are you doing?" I kept my eyes on the screen. "This is what they were doing," I said into the mic, "while you were praying for his sobriety. While you were sending flowers and believing in change." A loud, shocked "Jesus Christ" from someone in the back row. My mother stood up, hand over her mouth. Russell looked like he'd been gut-punched. Haley grabbed my arm. "Stop this. Please. Not here." I pulled my arm free. "Not here? You brought him into my house. My bed. Around my son. And you want me to protect your dignity?" The screen kept playing. Texts. Moans. Selfies. Someone's drink dropped and shattered on the patio. Haley was crying now. Truly crying. Russell stood, finally. "Toby, let's go talk." "No," I said. "You don't get to run. You get to stay. You get to see what honesty looks like." I stepped back from the mic, watched it all burn. I watched my father's face as the screen played. And that's when I realized he never thought I'd have the guts. It was silent. For a full 3 seconds. The kind of silence that feels heavy, like the whole world is holding its breath. Then the whispers started. Not quiet ones. Loud, confused, venomous. "Oh my God, is that? No way. That's his dad. That's his dad." The screen kept playing. Haley mid-laugh. Russell, shirtless. Motel bedding behind them. Another timestamp. Another knife. The audio crackled next, a voice memo I'd found in the burner phone. Her voice. Sultry. Intimate. "Come quick. Toby just left for work. Wear that stupid cologne you know I hate. I want to feel dirty." People were already standing. My aunt covered her mouth and turned away. My boss from school grabbed his wife's arm. One of Haley's co-workers audibly said, "What the F?" before catching herself in front of Max. But he'd already heard. My son. My boy. He was sitting 2 rows back with my mother, clutching the ring pillow like it could protect him from everything happening in front of his eyes. He didn't cry. He didn't flinch. He just looked at me. And I nodded. Because this, all of this, wasn't just about revenge. It was about showing him what truth looks like, even when it's brutal. Haley rushed to the projector table, fumbled with the laptop. "Turn it off," she hissed. "Turn it off, Toby." I took 1 step forward. Loud. Deliberate. "Don't you dare touch that laptop." Her hand froze midair. "You owe them this," I said, gesturing to the crowd. They came for a celebration. Instead, they got the truth. Russell stood now, red-faced and shaking. "This isn't the place," he growled. "We'll talk about this like men." I turned toward him. "Like men? You mean in secret? Behind closed doors? Like how you were sneaking around with my wife while I was tucking your grandson into bed?" He tried to step forward. I blocked him. "You broke me once," I said. "This time, I break you." The final slide hit. Black screen, white text. "This is what they were doing while you prayed for his sobriety." And then silence again, until the first voice broke it. My mother. Her voice clear, shaking, full of rage. "I knew you were a bastard, Russell. But I never imagined this." He turned to her, tried to speak. She slapped him. Hard. The sound echoed through the backyard. Guests started leaving in waves, some quiet, some muttering. Max watched them go, still clutching that pillow. Haley crumpled onto a chair, face in her hands. Russell looked at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Maybe I'd finally become the version of myself that could survive people like him. I walked over to the mic one last time. "Thank you all for coming," I said. "Really, this wasn't easy, but neither is healing." I looked at Haley. "You said this vow renewal would make us stronger." I smiled, flat cold. "You were right." The guests fled in silence. My wife begged for mercy. My father tried to fight. And I had never felt calmer. The backyard emptied faster than I expected. People didn't shout. They didn't argue. They just left, like the oxygen had been sucked out of the air and instinct told them to run. My boss from Oakfield Middle gave me a stiff nod as he passed. Said nothing, but his wife gripped my hand and whispered, "Good for you." The caterers looked horrified. One kid by the dessert table snapped a photo before his girlfriend slapped the phone out of his hand. Someone left behind a half-eaten cupcake. I stared at it for a long time. Funny, the The little things you notice after detonating your own life. Haley ran after me as I walked back into the house. Toby, Toby, please. She grabbed my arm, sobbing now, makeup streaked, eyes wide. This isn't who we are, she choked out. I turned slowly. You mean the man you married and the man you F? In a motel, while our son watched cartoons? She covered her mouth. I didn't plan this, she said. God, it spiraled. No, I said. You chose it. Over and over again. You used his recovery to justify your need for chaos. Don't pretend this was an accident. She collapsed onto the stairs, weeping. You've ruined my life. I knelt beside her. Voice low. No, Haley. You ruined ours. I just put the wreckage on display. Russell tried to get loud. He stormed into the house like a teenager caught sneaking in past curfew. You think you're righteous, Toby? That was cruel. You humiliated her. You humiliated me. I didn't flinch. I exposed you. She's your wife. And you're my father. I exploded. Which one of us crossed the bigger line? He backed up, eyes wide. I stepped forward. You slithered into my life under the banner of recovery. You played the victim. You drank my coffee, kissed my son goodnight, and then Ed my wife like you earned that right. Don't talk to me like that. Or what? You'll run again? Relapse? Lie? He stood silent. Good. Because I wasn't done. I wanted to believe in your change, I said. I needed to. For Max. For closure. But all you changed was the way you dressed your betrayal. You used the language of healing to justify the same old poison. He said nothing. Just stared. Then I leaned in, real close. You'll never see Max again. His face dropped. You can't do that. I already have, I said. Every photo, every message, it's in a folder. Already sent to my lawyer. You want to argue custody? Try me. I stepped back. Get out of my house. He hesitated. Just for a second. Like he might fight. Like he might raise a hand or throw a punch. But he didn't. He turned and walked out the door. Haley stayed on the stairs, shaking, whispering things I couldn't hear. I didn't need to. The damage was done. She knew it. I knew it. And the worst part? She didn't beg me to stay. She begged me not to destroy her. And that told me everything about who she really was. That night, after Max fell asleep, confused, quiet, but safe, I sat at the kitchen table with a whiskey I hadn't touched in over a year. I looked out the window. The fairy lights still twinkled. The chairs were still out there, empty. The scent of roses still hung in the air like a joke. And I whispered to no one. You broke me once. This time, I break you. I didn't just file for divorce. I filed for war. The Monday after the vow renewal massacre, I walked into my lawyer's office with a flash drive and a fire in my chest. Richard Klein, mid-50s, sharp as hell. The kind of guy who doesn't blink when you tell him your wife was sleeping with your father and you want to turn that betrayal into a legal bloodbath. He didn't flinch, just slid a yellow pad across the desk. Tell me everything, he said, and don't leave out the dirty parts. So I did. The texts, the burner phone, the motel receipts, the family therapy sessions Haley attended after their last hookup. The Sunday mornings she kissed Max goodbye and drove to my father's halfway house in lingerie under her coat. By the end of it, he was shaking his head slowly. Jesus, he muttered. They didn't just stab you in the back. They slow danced on your spine. We filed the paperwork that afternoon. Divorce. Full custody of Max. On the grounds of moral misconduct, emotional endangerment, and infidelity within the family structure. Richard leaned back, steepling his fingers. You know the press will eat this alive, right? I'm counting on it, I said. And then I handed him the last piece of the plan. A typed, anonymous submission to the Oakfield Courier, our town's most read paper, with a thumb drive full of photos. Not all the explicit ones, just enough to raise eyebrows. A kiss in a motel parking lot. A time-stamped image of Haley and Russell entering a motel at 10:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. One of them in church clothes. The irony didn't need explanation. 2 days later, the headline hit. Father-son love triangle erupts during family vow renewal. Local teacher exposes wife and estranged father in viral backyard meltdown. The article didn't name me directly, but Oakfield's not that big. Everyone knew. My inbox flooded. Some messages from coworkers. Some from strangers. A few from former students, now grown, saying things like, "You were always too good for this town. She doesn't deserve your silence." Or "Your son." My mom says she's a disgrace. I agree. One kid sent me a TikTok someone made, a slowed-down version of the vow renewal slideshow, paired with dramatic music and captions like, "This ain't family, it's Netflix." I didn't laugh, but I didn't stop it either. They wanted public? They got public. Haley texted me the next morning. "Haley, what the F asterisk did you do?" "Haley, my job's on the line. They called me in." "Haley, you said you wouldn't destroy me." "Me, I lied." That afternoon, her clinic called to place her on administrative review. The board had received concerning material regarding her judgment, personal conduct, and conflicts of interest, including a relationship with a known recovering patient who she had personally referred to the facility. "Russell," she called me sobbing, "I'm going to lose everything." "You already did," I said. "And Russell?" His rehab sponsor dropped him. His face, too, had made the paper. The Courier blurred it, but not enough. Oakfield may pretend to be forgiving, but nothing gets forgiven when it's that disgusting. I sent him one final text. "Me, you hurt me as a boy. You betrayed me as a man. Stay gone." He never replied. Didn't need to. I'd already taken everything he used to manipulate his way back in, his progress, his recovery, his image, and shredded it with one press release. The only thing left was Max. We sat on the porch, just the two of us. He was playing with a toy dinosaur, quiet, processing. "Mommy's in trouble," he said softly. "Yeah," I said. "She is." He looked at me. "Did she hurt you?" I nodded. "Will she come back?" I paused, thought about what kind of man I wanted him to grow into. "She might try," I said. "But it's our job to protect the good things in our life. And I won't let her hurt you." He didn't say anything, just leaned against my side. And I felt the weight of everything I'd done settle into something I could finally carry. The day she lost her job, she showed up at my door sobbing, but I'd already written the perfect reply. It was raining, not a storm, just that slow, steady drizzle that soaks you without making a sound. I saw her through the peephole before she knocked. Hair wet, mascara running, jacket unzipped, one of her heels broken. She didn't look like Haley. She looked like what she'd become, someone whose carefully built life was caving in, one floor at a time. 3 knocks. Soft. Hesitant. I opened the door halfway. "Don't," I said. "Toby, I mean it. Don't say anything unless it's the truth. Because if I hear one more performance, I swear to God." "I got fired," she said. Just like that. No build-up. No spin. Just the sound of her voice breaking under the weight of the inevitable. "They let me go?" "Said it was a conduct review issue. That I crossed a line. With your father. With a patient." I stared at her. "No," I said. "You crossed every line." She shook her head. "You don't understand. They think I abused him. That I manipulated him." I raised an eyebrow. "Now you're the victim?" "Toby, they said I could lose my license." "You should." She flinched like I slapped her. Then she crumbled, right there on the porch. Knees to the wet concrete. Sobbing like a child. I didn't touch her. Didn't offer a hand. Didn't kneel. I stood over her like a tombstone. She looked up at me through soaked lashes. "You ruined me." I crouched, met her eyes. "No, I revealed you." The next day, she texted me. Just one line. "Haley, you ruined my life." I waited 10 minutes. Then replied. "Me." I returned the favor. Her reputation didn't just tank, it exploded. Clients called to pull their files. Other social workers distanced themselves. Whispers in the hallways turned into emails, investigations, blacklisted resumes. The paper didn't name her officially, but people knew. Oakfield's small, and secrets travel faster than news vans. She moved out of her apartment 2 weeks later. Some cheap sublet on the edge of town. I heard from a mutual friend that she's applying for jobs out of state. Mental health clinics, women's shelters, even churches. That one made me laugh. Russell? Gone. No one's seen him since the fallout. Probably holed up in some motel off the highway. Or relapsed. Or dead. I didn't care. I'd buried him without digging a grave. One afternoon, I picked Max up from school. He was quiet in the back seat, watching the rain against the window. "Is Mommy sad?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. He thought for a moment. "Did you make her sad?" I met his eyes in the rear view. "No," I said. "She did that to herself." He nodded. Didn't ask again. I kept her final voicemail. Just one. Left at 2:13 a.m. One night. Her voice was ragged. Almost unrecognizable. "You win." "Okay. UF*ing win. I hope you're happy now." She hung up without saying goodbye. I played it twice, then deleted it. Because this wasn't about winning. It was about ending the game. I thought I'd seen the worst of it, until I opened her medical file and found my father's name under sperm donor. I wasn't supposed to see it. The file was tucked inside a legal envelope from the fertility clinic, mixed in with other paperwork Haley had left behind after the divorce filing. I was sorting through the box, checking for anything I'd need for the custody case. Most of it was junk. Old bills, appointment reminders, a sympathy card from someone who'd clearly only heard the version of the story Haley told. And then I found it. The envelope, labeled, fertility consultation, confidential. At first, I thought it was old. Something from before Max. But the date stopped me cold. March. As in, 2 months before I found the burner phone. Inside were consent forms, charts, lab results, and a treatment plan. IVF. Not just discussions. Scheduling. Blood work. Hormone therapy prescriptions. All of it in Haley's name. No mention of me. None. I flipped through in disbelief, until I found the page that made my entire body go numb. Sperm donor, Russell Mitchell. DOB, 1967. My father. My wife was trying to get pregnant with my father's child. I didn't even know how to process it. This wasn't just infidelity. This wasn't just lust or poor judgment. This was warped. This was psychotic. She wasn't just screwing him. She was trying to build a future with him, inside my home, under my roof, using my son's last name. What kind of monster sits across from her husband every night and plans a child with his father? What kind of person hugs their stepson while scheduling injections to implant his half-sibling? What kind of legacy was she trying to create? I paced the kitchen for an hour. Felt like the walls were breathing. Felt like the house knew. Everything was a lie. Everything. I pulled out Max's baby book, held it in my lap like an artifact from a dead civilization. How close had I come to raising a child I thought was mine? How close had I come to letting her win? I called Richard the next morning. We need to escalate the custody claim, I said. Something new, he asked. Yeah. She tried to make my father the biological sibling of my son. Dead silence. Jesus Christ, Toby. Yeah. He was quiet again. Then, send me everything. We'll bury her. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on the couch with the documents spread out like crime scene photos. Haley hadn't gone through with the IVF. No implantation dates. Just plans. Intent. A signed agreement. But that was enough. Intent meant everything in court. And to me, it meant she wasn't just cheating. She was replacing me. I didn't tell Max. Not yet. He still asked about her sometimes. Asked why she wasn't calling as much. I told him she needed space to work on herself. But part of me wanted to tell him the whole truth. That she wasn't just broken, she was dangerous. That she didn't just betray our marriage, she tried to rewrite our bloodline. I called her that night. She didn't answer. I left a message. You weren't just cheating. You were trying to raise his child in my house. I didn't yell, didn't curse. Just said it, calm and flat, like reading a headline. Because soon, that's what it would be. I didn't go there to forgive them. I went to bury what was left of them. The letter came in a plain envelope. No return address, but I knew the handwriting. My mother's. Just 3 lines, written like a prayer. He's checking into the halfway house tomorrow. If you need closure, this is your window. You deserve to say what he never did. I stared at it for a long time. I hadn't seen Russell in over a month. Not since the backyard implosion. Not since I turned his shame into a slideshow and made him watch. I wasn't sure what I felt. Hate? Pity? Nothing. But the thing about trauma is, sometimes the only way out is through. I drove to the facility that afternoon. Small place. Faded siding. A garden out front that someone still tried to keep alive. They buzzed me in without asking who I was. I sat in the waiting room, listening to the ticking clock and the hum of fluorescent lights. The kind of silence that makes your skin itch. Then he came out. Russell. Thinner. Grayer. Slower. He looked surprised to see me. Maybe he thought I was there to throw a punch. Maybe he thought I'd never come. But I didn't rise. I let him come to me. Toby, he said softly. You didn't have to. Sit, I said. He did. We sat in 2 cracked chairs, facing each other like a failed mirror. You were supposed to be better, I said. He nodded. I know. You were supposed to be a grandfather. A second chance. Not AF ****** ing replacement. His lips trembled. I didn't mean for it to. Stop, I cut him off. You don't get to say that. You meant all of it. Every text. Every touch. Every lie. He looked down. She told me things, he said. Said you were cold. Distant. That you didn't. And you believed her? I laughed. The woman who lies like most people breathe? He looked ashamed. But not enough. Never enough. I came here to say one thing. I said, standing. He looked up. I forgive you. His eyes widened. But forgiveness, I continued, isn't a door you walk back through. It's a wall I build so you can't touch me anymore. He nodded slowly. I won't bother you again. You're damn right. I turned, took 2 steps toward the exit, then stopped. You tried to give her a child? I said without looking back. In the same house where I was raising mine. Silence. Then I walked out. I visited my mother after. She hugged me tight in the doorway. Said nothing at first. Just held on. Then, over tea, she whispered, you ended the curse. I looked at her, confused. She smiled sadly. Men in our family, we break things. You broke them instead. The sun was setting when I got home. Max was in the backyard, chasing fireflies. He called out when he saw me, smiling wide, untouched by all the wreckage. I knelt in the grass and let him run into my arms. That moment, that pure moment, was when I knew I'd won. Not because I hurt them, but because I walked through hell and came back with my soul intact. Haley never called again. Never showed up. The last I heard, she moved 2 states over. Changed her name. Working under a different license. Russell? Disappeared into silence. Fine by me. I used to wake up waiting for the next blow. Now, I wake up and breathe. And that's enough. 6 months later, no one in my new town knows what happened. They don't know about the backyard ambush. The burner phone. The child that almost wasn't mine. The father who tried to become something more. They just know me as Mr. Mitchell, the middle school English teacher who volunteers in the library and coaches intramural soccer on Thursdays. The one who always wears a wedding band on a chain around his neck. The one who keeps his past folded quietly in the pages of books. We live in a rented cottage near the edge of town. It's small. 2 bedrooms. Creaky floors. No dishwasher. But it's ours. Max has a window seat now, and he fills it with dinosaur toys and paper airplanes. Every morning, he leaves a note for me there, a scribbled joke or a question about the stars. The first time he asked, "Are we happy now?" I cried in the pantry so he wouldn't see. Because yeah, we are. No one asks about Haley. Not even him. Kids are smarter than people give them credit for. Max understood, in his own way, that some people are like cracked glass, too sharp to hold, too dangerous to keep fixing. He sees her sometimes. Court-ordered. Supervised. He never asks to stay longer. He never asks why she looks so tired. Or why she always says, "I'm sorry," instead of "I love you." I've gone back to therapy. Not to heal from them, but to remember myself. The version of me that existed before betrayal became my bedtime story. I hike now. Read poetry again. I've started sketching. Bad drawings, mostly. But Max thinks they're masterpieces. And when he tells me that, I believe him. The students at school don't know my history, but they sense something in me. The quiet man who listens more than he talks. Who gives second chances, but never thirds. Last week, one of my 8th graders, a quiet girl named Bree, handed me a thank you card after class. Inside, in shaky handwriting, she wrote, "You saw me when no one else did. You saved me." And for the first time in years, I smiled without pretending. I'm not healed. Not fully. There are nights I wake up gasping, sure I've heard Haley's voice. Or Russell's footsteps. Phantom echoes of a past that doesn't want to let go. But then I walk down the hallway, open my son's door, watch him sleep, safe, whole, untouched by the rot we escaped. And I remember, this is the life I chose. Not the perfect one. The real one. The final piece of mail I got from Oakfield was a court document. Full custody. Undisputed. Signed and sealed. I framed it. Not out of spite, but because survival deserves to be celebrated. I don't hate them anymore. Because hate is a chain. And I broke mine the day I stood under the fairy lights and told the truth. Everything after that. Freedom.